good night. How am I doing tonight? God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Overjoyed Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a word out tonight. And the topic gonna be Jacob wrestled with God. Jacob wrestled with God. So we had just talked about Jacob prepared to meet Esau. And he was so scared and afraid. He prepared a gift. And he had the gift to go ahead of him. He wanted to see what state of mind that Esau was in. Because the last thing he heard that Esau wanted to kill him, and his mama told him to feed by her brother's house. He know all the stuff that he done to Esau. He stole his birthright, his blessing. And now it's 20 years. Now they're meeting together. Now today lesson gonna be Jacob on his journey to meet Esau, but then he started wrestling with God. He don't know it's God. He's saying it's a supernatural being. He gonna be wrestling with. And this passage is gonna come from Genesis chapter 32, verse 22 to 32. So Jacob prepared to meet Esau, but afraid, and he prayed. He prayed to God, and then he sent a gift ahead of him, trying to buy favor with Esau. So while going to meet Esau on his journey, that night Jacob got up and he took his two wives, his two servants, and his 11 children, 11 sons, and crossed the ford of Jabra, and Jacob had sent everyone away. He sent the wives, he sent the servant, he sent the kid, he sent everyone away. So now he is by himself. He is left alone. So now while he left alone, here comes this supernatural, being is wrestling with Jacob to daybreak. Now he don't know it's God at first. Now he wrestling at daybreak. So when the man saw that he couldn't overpower him, now he touched the socket of Jacob's hip. So Jacob fighting with this person, wrestling with this person, and he don't want to stop. It's going daybreak. They're still wrestling. So then his hip was wrenched out of place, and he still wrestling, refused to let go. So now we see that God had hunt Jacob down and start wrestling with Jacob until daybreak. So now, God will break us to make us. Jacob is a third link of God's purpose. So sometimes God will shape you up, and you gotta pray. He doing it with me also. He will shape you up, break you up, and everything else to make you the kind of person He needs you to be for His purpose. So Jacob had always been a wandering. Now he had fled his home in Beersheba to escape his brother Ralph and find a wife in Haran. Remember his Isaac had told him, now you go ahead on to Haran and find your wife, and you marry one of Lambert's daughters. So on his journey, he was afraid to meet Esau, but encountered with God. Now he was afraid to meet Esau, but he up there fighting and wrestling with God. How you be afraid of your brother, but you're not afraid of God, and you just wrestling with him to daybreak. So in the form of a man, sought out Jacob, and God wanted to make Jacob into a different person. So he took action. He took action. He wanted Jacob to be a different person. And sometimes God will break us up, to make us the person that He wants us to be. Now He initiated a wrestling match. Is that lasted from daybreak. Wrestling match that lasts a long time. Real wrestling don't wrestle that long to daybreak. So Jacob willfully would not allow him to give up. You know, Jacob was he was on to that. He would not let go. He didn't want to stop. He didn't want to let go. So the man broke Jacob. Touching his hip so that he'll walk like that for the rest of his life. you know. So God touches him, you know, for him to be like that for the rest of his life, you know. So many people might become bitter, you know, and turn away from God, from breaking them like that, you know. But Jacob is a good man now, you know. Sometimes it worked, you know. God broke him to make him, you know, and God would do us that. He doing you know, he doing it also with me, you know. He will break you to make you. You know, and at the end, Jacob is a good man because he could have took Laban out a long time ago. You know, when Laban talking about when he did to see him with the first wife when he supposed to be marrying Rachel and turned out to be Lee. Now, if he was the type of person that he was before when he kept manipulating his brother, he would have did the same thing with Laban. You know, but God will break you to make you the person that He wants you to be. You know, uh, so God broke him and made him. You know, so sometimes God will break us to make us the person that we are today. You know, um, either either you get mad and bitter, or you cling to God like Jacob did. You know, just like they said, anybody else probably would have got mad with God. You know, got mad with God. God broke his hip. You know, God wrestled with him. You know, God broke his hip to break him to make him the person that Jacob is today. You know, for him. You know, Jacob is the third link of God's purpose. You know, so then the man said, let me go. And then, you know, they ran till daybreak. You know, so the man like, let me go. You know, for it is daybreak. He had to let him know, it is daybreak, let me go. You know, so Jacob replied, I will not let you go until you bless me. Now, Jacob clinged to God. He clinged so tight to God. He said, I will not let you go until you bless me. You know, and sometimes when you cling to God like that, you know, sometimes you're going to get mocked. Sometimes you're going to get teased because sometimes your faith can be so strong that you're going to, no matter what, you're going to keep on cleaning on until you get blessed. And that's what Jacob said, I will not let you go until you bless me. You know, so but we see that Jacob, he did the opposite. You know, to respond that he clings to God so tight, saying that I will not let you go until you bless me. You know, so now God can show tough love, and he trust me, he showed tough love. You know, and sometimes, you know, God will allow us to feel that pain. And you remember Job? Job felt that pain. And remember what the devil did him to his side. You know, so something about that side, you know. So God will show tough love. You know, he was right there with Job the whole time. And Job was in so much pain, you know. And just like Irma, you know, myself, we be in so much pain, but we know God right there. You know, God will allow so much for the devil to do when God will step in. You know, God step in with Job. You know, God will step in. And we see that God intervened many times on Jacob's behalf. You know, so God will allow us to feel pain. You know, Job did. Job had felt so much pain. You know, but sometimes God will break us to make us better. You know, He will break us to make us better. We will see things a whole different way than we did before. You know, so He may God might break our heart, you know, so we can make room, you know, for him there, you know, because God want us. He want us to cling to him. God wants him to be the first priority of our life. You know, so sometimes he might break our heart so we can make room for him in our heart. You know, he may break our will so we can discover that his will is for us. You know, he may break our will so we can discover his will is for us. His way is the only way for us. You know, he may break our physical strength so we can discover that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. You know, He may break our physical strength so we can discover that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. So we learn from Jacob when God showed tough love. You know, when God showed tough love, you know, we may get mad and bitter, but Jacob telling us, no, you cling to God. God did everything to him, his socket and everything else, but he still was clinging to God. Now he learned and teaching us a lesson that no matter how God break us, I'm in that stage too. No matter how God break us, we still gotta cling to God. You still got to pray. You still got to cling to God, because God is the only way out of anything. You know, we see that Jacob clinged to God. Instead of him getting mad, instead of him getting bitter, he clings to God and said, no, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. So the man asked him, so by, Jacob being so bold, you wrestling with somebody to daybreak, and then you refuse to let go. So God turned around and like, what's your name? He said, my name is Jacob, So he like, what's your name? Why is you asking me my name? So God said, then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So that's why his kids gonna be the Israelite. Because Jacob's name is no longer gonna be Jacob. It's gonna be Israel. Because you have struggled with God and with human and have overcome. Now he struggled with God. And God saw how he overcome him, and refused to let go. He refused to let go. So Jacob asked, what's your name? So the man said, why are you asking me my name? And then he blessed him. God saw how bold he was. After all that, God blessed him. Because Jacob, he refused to let go until you bless me. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying it is because he saw God face to face. I guess you did saw God face to face. You wrestled with him to daybreak. So he saw God face to face, and yet his life was spared. So God did not destroy him. God did not kill him. Even though they were wrestling all night long and he refused to let go, God still did not take his life, because Jacob is a link to his purpose. So he was not going to harm Jacob in no serious matter, because Jacob children, Jacob children is going to be the link to God's purpose and bring it to the finish line. So now Jacob saying he wrestled with God, but God spared his life. So it was human being that we know that God could have took his life, but God spared his life. Now after the wrestling match was over, Jacob left limping because of his hip. Jacob wrestled with what he thought was a man, but turned out to be God. So he was scared of Esau, but he turned around wrestling with God. So and he received a blessing. And his name got changed. This blessing was a confirmation of the promise and blessing that God had given his grandkids. His grandfather Abraham before him. Blessing went to Abraham, then it went to Isaac, and now Jacob. So Jacob was God's third link for his purpose. So God had to break him to make him the person that God wanted him to be, to finish his purpose. And that's what God will do. God will show tough love, especially when you got a purpose. You go through so much. Talk about myself, you will go through so much. Especially if you got a big purpose on your life. That was a big purpose that Jacob had. The Israelite was his children. He already had 11 kids. he was taken with him, already had 11 kids. So we see that Jacob didn't get mad. We see he didn't get mad. He clinged to God until God had blessed him. Because he said, I'm not going to let you go until you bless him. And he meant that. He didn't let go, and God blessed him. So we see that Jacob was afraid to meet Esau, but he turned around and started wrestling with God. And God put his socket out of place. And anybody else probably would have been mad. They probably would have been bitter. They probably would have been upset. But Jacob didn't get mad. Jacob didn't get bitter. He clings to God so tight. He told God, I'm not going to let you go until you bless him. And God blessed him. Not only he got blessed, but God changed his name. God changed his name to Israel. Changed the name to Israel. So he's still on his journey to meet Esau. He never met Esau yet. He brought, he sent his gift and stuff to Esau yet. So he on his journey, but he never got to Esau yet. So the next package is gonna be that Jacob meet Esau. So the last package was he was preparing to meet Esau. And in the mix on his journey, he wrestled with this human being, not knowing it was God. And he wrestled to daybreak. He wrestled longer than a real wrestling people wrestle. They wrestled a few little minutes and stuff until the bell rang. They wrestled all the way to daybreak too. So that was a long time, and he was so bold. He was so bold to keep on wrestling and hold on until he got blessed. And God blessed him, and God changed his name. So that's all the word I have for you on tonight. And y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see y'all in the next video.